what's going on? It's your man, Smoking No Joking with Big A. Today's episode is about methods and procedures. Now, let me explain. For those that drive and for those that may not drive, there is a procedure you have to go through to get your license, right? You got to go, they tell you the 90-degree back turn, and some people have to parallel park, right turn right, and you have to go through the procedure in order to get your license. But once you get your license, it's all about method. Mugs be driving with one finger, you know what I'm saying? Knee all up on the, so the method in which you drive is different than the procedure to get your license. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to cooking. There's a method, right? Once you develop your style to how you cook. But then there's also a procedure. So today's episode is about the procedures, right? And we're going to start with, how do you flour your meats? Take a look at this, right? I'm about to flour up this meat, but I want to show you ingredients are expensive, and that includes flour. So in order to ensure, especially if you're frying something, you want to lightly coat, but you want to coat it enough so that extra flour that you put in there, it's going to be enough for you to go ahead. Now watch this here. You see how this piece right here looks like it's sort of floured? I'm going to dip it in that one piece of flour, but then I'm going to come back, because I want to get every niblet of this flour that I can. I mean, flour is expensive. You don't want to be wasting your flour. In order to properly fry anything, you want to make sure that it is floured well. And look at that. Coated well in the flour. I done said it. The price of things is way out there. So there's also a procedure when it comes to the amount of oil you need to use when you are going to properly fry some food. Oil could be based off of thickness. I mean, you can't lightly coat the pan, right? Unless you're using some olive oil and you're going to kind of fry your steak that way using the hot olive oil. But based off the thickness, right? A thick old piece of pork chop, a thin chicken cutlets, you got to have what I call the half cover. I want you to think about laying in the bathtub, right? And half your body covered in the water. Well, it's the same thing with your oil. Your meat has got to be at least halfway covered in the oil in order to get a proper fry. But again, be mindful. I don't know if you've been to the grocery store. The price of things is out the roof. So be mindful on your use of oil. But the procedure is to use enough oil when you're frying stuff. Today's tips and tidbits. That fully coated, right? You want to make sure before you lay your meat into the oil that it's fully coated with that flour. Now, some people put the seasoning and the flour all together. You done seen them mix it in a bag, whatever. I like to get intimate with my food. I'm talking hands all up in it, right? So I ensure that the meat is fully coated in that flour. Let it sit for a minute before it even touches that hot oil. Today's tips and tidbits. I know y'all done seen this if you watched my other video, but you remember that little test to make sure that your oil is hot before you put your stuff up in it, right? That oil should be popping. So I use a little bit of the flour and I go ahead and touch it in that oil just to make sure that when my meat and the flour hit it, it be sizzling, cooking. All right? So that's your little test. Again, get that oil a little test. You want your oil to be hot and popping before you put anything up in there to fry. Now, I tell people this all the time. Don't let the texture, right? This here browning of the skin make you think your meat is cooked. That's just the flour and the paprika and all the seasonings there darkening the outside. What you want to do is make sure you go to a reduced heat, right? Because by doing that, you're going to make sure that your meat cooks all the way through. So again, don't let the skin, the texture of the skin, make you think this meat is cooked. This meat ain't cooked yet. I'm going to reduce the heat, and then we're going to cook it some more. You got to make sure your meat is cooked all the way through. Look at all that good old meat popping, bubbling in that oil. Ooh-wee! You want to get that meat cooked up here, bubbling, sizzling. Got that side of rice going here. Ooh-wee! Now, once you made sure that you done cooked that meat all the way through, you ready to set it off to the side and feed your family like royalty up in this mug. So that is today's episode. Smoking No Joking with Big A. Like I said, if we cooking it, We eating it. I'm showing it. So I hope you enjoyed this. A few little tips and tidbits about procedure, right? You gotta do it a certain way. But then it's the method. You do it any way you want to after that. Lastly, remember, always put some love up in it.